I wanted to take a moment to talk about the Museum Replicas deal of the day. And the reason I'm bringing up this topic, and I think many people are tired of me talking about it because of my unboxing videos, but the reason for all the unboxing videos and the reason for all of it is because I've actually been tracking what they put on sale. Because I wanted to know, did they do things in a predictive manner? Could I guess what item they were going to put on sale, which is very often for nearly half off. So sometimes you can get a really good item like this sword for just over $100. And although windlass swords aren't the best, they're certainly worth about $100, and that's certainly a great deal, so it's always something I wanted to keep an eye on. But I was really curious if I could do a predictive pattern and look at what they were selling and see if I could guess what each future thing would be. Now, I've been tracking this for 4 months, and the answer to that question is no, it's not predictable. There is no pattern per se. But you can get close, and so I'll speak to that in a moment. The first thing I want to talk about was some of the statistical breakdown of what you would see and how often you would see it. There are basically 4 categories of items that I tracked. So everything they put on sale, I put into one of these 4 buckets. It was either clothing, i.e. costuming. This would include footwear, belts, things that go on your person for the purposes of clothing. You have weapons, so that was another common one. You have armor, so not quite clothing, but it is armor. And then finally I had miscellaneous. So miscellaneous covered pretty much everything else. It was the catch-all bucket. And it included many things like jewelry, there were face masks on there, LARP swords, LARPing gear I kept on there because it didn't really fit under anything else, I didn't think. And so I got these breakdowns, and here's what it comes down to. I'm going to throw this up on the screen here for you. About 60% of all of the deal of the day items were clothing. It was an overwhelming majority. So most of the time when you go look at the deal of the day, it will be clothing. However, almost 25% of the time, it's a weapon. It's a sword, it's an axe, it's a hammer, it's a dagger. It is something that is considered medieval weaponry. About 7% of the time, it's armor. So there were a couple times that there were helmets. I bought one of them with the Majowski helmet that I purchased. I've also seen chainmail on there and a couple other helmets that I chose not to purchase. And finally, miscellaneous makes up about 8%. So overwhelming majority is clothing, costuming related items. About 1/4 of the time you're going to see some sort of weapon, usually a bladed weapon. That was very, very common. Few axes, not much else. And the rest is, sometimes you might see armor, sometimes you might see something kind of categorized as miscellaneous. But what was actually the more interesting predictor of what you would get is not based on what you would see day to day, but what you would see on a weekly basis. What I mean by this is there were themes in the weekly sales, and they still are. So every time you look at it, you'll actually see it. It's cyclical. It's usually 7 to 8 days long on a theme, and then the theme changes. So when I first started tracking this, they were right in the middle of a fantasy theme, and they did that for about 5 days. Then for 8 days, they did a Viking theme. So for 8 days, there were things like a Thor's hammer, a Viking noble's tunic, a Viking axe, a Viking tunic that was wool, a dress, a lady's dress, a hewing spearhead. So there's 3 weapons in one kind of general category. And they even did the Viking Ulfberg. So there were a lot of weapons in that Viking one. However, then it went on to Crusades. And the Crusades had things like tunics and cloaks and belts and all these things. And looking at that, there was an axe and a helmet and a dagger that went involved with the Crusades. And then right after the Crusades, it went into what I think was a Robin Hood theme. And that lasted for about a week, 7 days. Then there was a one-off Viking day. I think it was actually supposed to kind of be in the Robin Hood theme, although that didn't really make sense. But I assumed that it was meant to be part of Robin Hood, but I called it Viking because it was more Viking. Then there was a week of pirates, then a week of Romans. Then there was an entire week of Game of Thrones, and they did a lot of Game of Thrones things. Then it went back to fantasy. Then it became Don Juan. Then it became pirates again. Then it became Scottish. Then it became pirates again. The point is, it's basically impossible to predict what they're going to actually put on sale. But what it is possible to do is look at the items that you might want, make a list of them, and then start paying attention to the themes. And maybe those themes will encompass something that you want. Then you start paying attention. So if you're really into pirate things, well, they did pirate themes a lot. So maybe that's one you should look at. Now, I'm going to post some links to the breakdown that I got and the tracking that I did in the description of this video. If you're really curious, I'll post that. It's really basic. It just kind of went through everything. Every day I tracked the link to the item number, the price, what the discount was roughly, and what theme I thought it went under. So in the end, you can't be predictive, but you can at least know what the theme is. And the themes are usually all-encompassing. If you're lucky, that theme will actually allow you to build most of an entire costume with accessories, including weapons, in a week. And you can do it for half off. Now, of course, you have to pay for the shipping and all of that, which unfortunately adds to the cost, sometimes too much. But overall, it was a very interesting side project I did. I thought it was an interesting bit of information that I got out of it, and I think that maybe it's useful to some of my viewers. I know that I will continue to look at the daily deals, not so much because I want to always buy the things, but I'm always curious what they have on sale, and sometimes what they have on sale is something I want. These days, there's only a couple more items that I want. Through the daily deals, I've actually gotten most of the swords that I've ever wanted from Windless. I got this falchion. I got the Ulfbert. I got a lot of things from Windless simply because they were on sale. And so it's always worth looking at, even if you're not the biggest fan of Windless products, but if you're a collector, it's a good way to build your collection with at least halfway decent items and do so on the cheap. Hopefully that's helpful to some of you. Maybe it's not to all of you, but them's the breaks. See you next time.